Welcome to Thick Boy Fight Club. I'm your Balkan boy.
I'm Tyson the Beast.
And today's show, we're going to chop it up. But first, the restaurant shout-outs. For me, it's going to be this ramen spot called Kamen. It's in Mississauga by Square One on Burnhamthorpe and like Mavis. Fire ramen. I usually like Kintan ramen, but I checked out this place, and I got to say, it's probably like more authentic. And I don't know if you're a big ramen eater, but
I like ramen.
Yeah, I like ramen.
All right, so I'm not going to Tobuko today, but because I have to give a special shout. Fishman Lobster Clubhouse in the East End, roughly Scarborough. Some people call it Markham. Shout out to my boy John for bringing it the first time. I mean, some of the biggest crabs and crab legs I've ever seen in my life. Delicious. They have these lobster towers, crab towers, even the ambiance. They have these giant crabs, which I don't even know where they get them from, in their aquarium, and they pull them right from there. I mean, some of the best seafood I've ever had. I sweated butter and lobster for like a week straight. It was fucking delicious. Before we get into it also, we got to give a shout out to all our sponsors.
Top Mutt Studios, number one,
most important, our girl Phallon. Let's go through it. Clinch Culture, Kimura Wear, Mo Mind, Bearded Bites,
Blessed
Just
Edibles.
for Kicks, Blessed Edibles, Gas Dank, Major Pack. I know we're missing somebody.
Shout out to all the gyms, too, that have
All
been
the gyms.
supporting us.
Battle
Toronto Top
Arts,
Team.
Niagara Top Team.
10th Planet
10th
Jiu-Jitsu.
Planet, of course. You already
Big
know the
shout
vibes.
out. That's right.
Well,
Battle
Stuck Out of
Arts.
Boxing, Dog Pound.
And Battle
just the
Arts.
whole gang. Combat Arts. We've been growing, so if we forgot anybody, we'll get you on the next one. Today, we're going to do a fight recap of UFC 272. Also talk about the next one, 273. So what's your overall opinion of how the Colby-Masvidal fight happened? Colby coming to
Man, I thought Kobe dominated. I thought George would have more moments. He really didn't have any other than that right hook that he caught him with. And it was just one-way traffic.
Anything surprise you?
I mean, I was surprised at how easily, even when Masvidal stuffed takedowns, how Kobe, or even got into good positions, Kobe was able to just reverse it so quickly.
Yeah,
quickly.
I wasn't surprised, one, because I think that's just Kobe's MO. I think Masvidal had an amazing run in those times where he was knocking people out, these highlights. And two, I think Masvidal was very emotional, which I think is always a bad thing. I think Kobe was playing on that. And people can say they were both emotional, but I don't think Kobe can be as offended or hurt by the stuff that was being said as what Masvidal.
Because he's already built that whole persona. He already knows, listen,
he came up to the Kurt Angle knowing he would get trolled. I don't think you can bother somebody about gym beat the way you can talk about their family and their kids and their wife. And so
I feel like Kobe's like,
Masvidal fell for it, in my opinion.
he's chosen his path. He knows he's going to be the heel. So he just embraced it. And, if it wasn't for Kamaru Usman, I mean, that guy would be the champion.
He'd be champ. And Dana White has said that 1,001 times. And,
So what's next for Kobe then?
Well, so, okay, I
like how he's calling out Dustin Poirier, but
this was interesting about that, right? So, like, I said it before, and not that this changed anything. I think Masvidal should have focused more on, his jiu-jitsu as well. I always say, I tell all the young guys about it when I'm doing MMA, the next best thing to a sprawl to stop a takedown is a good front headlock and guillotine threat.
Yeah.
Even just the threat will make guys. You don't have to dive for it to your back. You don't have to, but the threat alone will keep people a little more respectful. And there's times where
and you have space to pull your hips
Kobe
out.
looked tired and on his knees, and those are the times with those guillotines, guys will fall to the back and you can just separate, right? But I think for Kobe, I don't think he can beat Usman. I think Khamzat is waiting in the corner.
I think Khamzat's next.
In the shadow. Yeah,
because I think you can't give Khamzat a title shot beating Gilbert Burns. Maybe. If he fights Kobe, that's the big fight.
So I do think they might do that. I think the only reason they will maybe wait is because, to your point, the time frame. This kid likes to fight a lot. Everyone's like, "Oh, you can wait." I'm like, "Yeah." There's older guys you hear them doing that, and he's not one of these guys.
Usman's focused on Leon Edwards.
He has time after his hand. He's making money. He has no reason to come back quick.
Yeah, after the Leon Edwards fight, I don't see him fighting even maybe again this year, maybe at the end of the year. So I think to make the biggest fight at welterweight would probably be Kobe versus Khamzat. If, granted, he has to get past Gilbert Burns.
Exactly. But for Kobe, I think the Poirier thing makes sense because it's a money fight. Just like this one was a money fight. I think it's easier than fighting. Bro, I think it's easier.
I think Poirier knows he's going to get out-wrestled.
Oh, he just wanted the Nate Diaz fight.
That's the one that makes sense because that's basically a 155 fight. Just that welterweight.
But this is what's weird about this. The stuff he was saying about Khamzat, his name, talking about his mother. These Chechnyan Dagestanis have proven that they will get after you outside of the cage. Like,
Yeah, they might have to weapons check him on the way to the cage.
Khabib is one of the most respectful, calm guys we've ever seen. You dominated Conor, and he still lost his mind. This kid seems like he'll lose his mind at the press conference if you say something about his mother. I mean, he really grew up in that war. He's playing with switchblades.
That's what I mean.
He's way less stable than Khabib, and Khabib couldn't control himself.
And that's going to be such a huge fight for the UFC to promote because Kobe has got to be a gift, and they got to see the value that he has now.
He's think really they almost cut him until he made a rant about Brazilians.
And what's crazy now, other fighters are going to look at that as like a pilot, like an example of how to like reinvigorate their career, how to get big, and you know it's bringing what Dave was telling us from Battle Arts, like the pro wrestling element into mixed martial arts.
Let me say, and this is something people need to understand. People want Khabib. Fine. It took Khabib years. You don't think if after 2 or 3 fights, after every win, Khabib starts screaming into the microphone the way Khamzat does, we wouldn't have been talking about him way before? He was too respectful.
Yeah, I remember when he fought here in Toronto, he walked the streets, nobody knew who he was. I recognized him just because I saw he was drained, and I'm like, oh, that's that Khabib guy. You know, like, Conor is what made Khabib the star that he was. You know,
Khamzat wouldn't be where he was if he would have won those fights and was quiet and humble. I'm telling you that right now. Nobody wants to hear that. But let's be real. He hasn't beaten anybody good enough to get Gilbert Burns.
The majority of people that watch MMA are not people in MMA.
Yeah, they're not.
I think fighters forget that, and that's where the bulk of the sales and everything comes from. So you got to appeal to them.
I mean, who would you say the best person Khamzat has beaten?
Gerald Meerschaert, probably.
Or the Lee guy, right?
I'd say Gerald Meerschaert. He beat him at middleweight.
Look at Leon Edwards is on how many win fight in a row?
9 fight win streak.
He's never gone to top 3.
He literally...
They gave him Nate Diaz. This kid is getting the number 2 welterweight in the world for beating
He asked
Lee.
for it. He asked for it.
Exactly. But he asked for it with his mouth.
What do you think, switching topics, about Alex Pereira already calling out Jared Cannonier and trying to get to Izzy as quickly as possible? What did you think of his performance?
So I think the Cannonier fight is a smart one because of it's another stand-up guy. I wasn't overly impressed with his performance. I look at a guy like him and I say Khamzat could beat him. I think a guy like Khamzat gets a hold of him. I wasn't that impressed. Like, he won, he looked good, but you know, people forget how many fights Izzy finally got to and what he has a solid camp around him. I understand why Pereira wants that because he beat Izzy. But, you know, styles make matchups. You might be able to outstrike him. But, man, you got a whole world of wrestlers that I think would give you... Like, can you beat Robert Whittaker? I don't know. Could he beat Hermanson?
I don't know.
Could he beat a lot?
What did you think of his fight, though?
I think it was a good fight. He looked good. And, I mean, but the guy, he was getting hit a lot more than Izzy gets hit.
He got leg kicked a lot. And he got taken down.
I don't know if Cannonier's the fight he wants.
What I saw, it looked like he woke up finally in the 3rd round. And in the 3rd round, you saw like, oh, man, this guy is scary.
He's dangerous. Listen.
I mean, the way he broke Bruno Silva's nose, that short uppercut at the end of the 3rd, I was like, oh, if he was awake like this from the start and like, you know.
But that's the problem.
It's like he's getting his rounds in. And I don't think he should rush.
And this is the thing is, like, I think Izzy, when we finally saw him, I think because of the background that his coach had set him with, he come from a MMA team that's gold, became MMA, kind of like at AKA, right? Yeah, it was a Muay Thai kickboxer, but he understood MMA as his future. You know, obviously Pereira has an advantage having a guy like Glover.
He's living with Glover.
Totally.
He's got that Wellington Truman.
But am I wrong to say he seems to start the fights still like a Muay Thai kickboxer where everything is very... And I remember Aaron, shout out to our guy Aaron from Clinch Culture. Oh, that's another one we got to remember. You know, he always says a lot of times the first round is about feeling each other out. And in Thailand, it's almost a cultural thing where you don't really do much in the first round, then you pick it up. He seems to still fight like that. And when you have, 15 minutes now, 25 at the highest level, I don't think you can do that where you can take rounds off. And that's kind of looked like what he was doing this first round, right? He looked like he was... Izzy seemed to understand. I don't understand
the judges because they should have gave at least 1 or 2 rounds possibly to Bruno Silva. It was close.
Yeah, so
it was close.
If you fight a guy like Whittaker who starts fast, a lot of fast strikers, I think would have given him some. He was getting hit a lot, bro. The chin was up a lot. Like I said, I bring up Khamzat. I know all the guys who I train with are gonna laugh because I'm always talking about him. But yeah, I look at a guy like him and say he would snatch Pereira up and maul him in the first round. I have no reason not to believe that. If Pereira starts slow like that, you cannot spend 5 minutes playing like that. And then, like I said,
and in MMA, those first minute, 2 minutes is
so
terrifying.
It's so important.
Let's be real. Like, your nerves are up there.
It's a momentum thing,
everyone's got the most amount of energy, the most amount of power, the most amount of speed at that time.
Yeah, man. It's
just that first, when you go to connect with each other, that first shot you're trying to land, like
so
you gotta be ready and awake for that. Because how many MMA fights do you see end like Masvidal against Ben Askren?
Yeah, and I also,
there's a lot of fast.
I just
knockouts.
think Israel's just one. I think he's a very special case. I think Alex came a little later because people forget how long Israel's actually been fighting MMA.
Yeah.
People keep
and I think there's
those,
a lot of other guys. Even shout out to a guy Simon Marcus now seeing that MMA is
the future.
Is,
he
is
beat
the
Israel
real-
Adesanya.
And yeah.
I mean, how many years ago did Israel lose to Alex Pereira?
I don't know actually.
It had to been
I
a
mean,
long
we'd have
time
to
ago,
look
bro.
it up.
It had to have been a long time ago based off how long Izzy's been in the UFC and then how long he's in MMA.
He lost to Pereira twice, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
One
believe
by
both were
decision.
knockouts, right?
No, one was decision, I believe.
And then one was that nasty left hook.
Left hook, yeah.
So, bro, you know how much time he's had to develop his overall MMA game? Pereira just seems to be chasing it too fast. And I do think you'd rather fight
Well, it's just
Israel.
seeing that the big paydays are in MMA.
Well,
I
and
mean,
he's a
especially
striker.
if you're a kickboxer.
It's another striker. Do you want to fight a 185 grappler who cut from 205 and wants to just maul you? Would you want to fight prime Chris Weidman? Like, from what I saw, he doesn't seem to have that dangerous.
Well, he'll be probably in the top 20, 30 now ranked in the world.
Canada's
Like Pereira.
smart. That's a good fight. But if I'm Canada, I'm not taking the fight. That's no value.
What do you
to
mean?
that.
You already promised the Izzy fight.
Canada makes
It's going to be Izzy versus Cannonier in the summer.
I think, and then I'm hearing that they're talking about Whitaker versus. Whitaker made a comment about fighting somebody recently.
He's already signed to fight.
Who is it?
Vittori.
That's what it was. That's who I've been waiting for. Okay, perfect. How does
That's a very
how
good
does
fight.
Pereira do against a guy like Vittori who can wrestle?
Not
How does he
good.
do against Paul Costa?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm
But
happy.
that's
he won.
why we love watching this, because he could catch up, and if he catches up with his grappling just enough to keep it on the feet, he's definitely better than some of these guys on the feet.
Well, no better person to be with than Glover Teixeira. No better person than the 205 heavyweight champ who mauled another grappler to
and
get his
no
belt
better
in his
for
40s.
and when you think about for Glover getting ready for Yuri,
I
that's
know.
probably one of the best guys.
It's
to
got to be a
have,
good mix.
to have such a good high level striker, because Yuri throws some really unorthodox techniques, and like,
So
that
let's.
guy is,
So since we're kind of already talking about this, let's jump to that next card, the UFC 273. And I hate, for me, the main event is Khamzat versus Burns. Second fight is Jan versus Aljamain. The third is.
Volkanovski.
I'm sorry, I have
You're
to
really
say.
dismissing Korean Zombie that much. Right?
How many fights in a row has he won?
One.
I rest my case. This is literally about this division just being it's not a shallow division. And I can't
No,
even
but
say
it's all the top guys have lost to each other.
Yeah,
and
and
there's not many guys
that's
left
what,
to
like
fight.
for instance, what do you think is the bigger fight? This or him fighting Henry Cejudo?
Of course. Listen, Henry Cejudo, I don't know what Dana White's personal vendetta is with him.
It's weird.
If you're willing to pay Masvidal way more money and Izzy way more money, like, what does it hurt to pay a gold medalist who was a double champion, flyweight and bantamweight, and
beat
literally
all-time greats?
has the potential to win 3 belts?
I think he can do it.
And I think he can do it.
No, I think Volk could beat him too because Volk is an animal, and
Volk is an
I'll
animal.
never count out
His
Volk.
conditioning is insane. He's big and he's
But
powerful.
I don't know what
But
the
when
UFC
you
has to
look
lose.
at their size, like Henry Cejudo is not much smaller than Volk frame wise, and
He's really short though. Henry's like 5'5".
But
He's like
how will
super
Volk
short.
do against fighting shorter guy?
Well,
He's always used to getting on the inside.
and
on
not that.
tall
Who's the
guys.
best wrestler he's ever fought? Probably Chad Mendes. And Chad Mendes didn't go there to wrestle him. He tried to knock him out.
don't
If you
know,
actually
man.
look at that fight,
I think that's a really intriguing fight.
very baffling. Why do you think that is? Because
Maybe Max Holloway takes it though, because you hear Henry Cejudo called out Max Holloway, and I think
would
that's the best
love
path for
that.
him, because Dana White said you can't just get off the couch fight for a title. Okay, let me fight
but
the
you
number
let,
one
you
contender.
let GSP do it.
Let him fight the number one contender.
And I'm hearing they might actually give Conor a title shot coming back, which I as big of a Conor fan as I think that is crazy. The
That
idea.
shouldn't happen. It's a crime if that happens.
But I think they're talking about doing it. I think Conor's kind of like blackmailing in the sense I don't need the money. You guys want me back. Let me get a title. Which, one, it'd be a for a guy like Oliveira. And then if he loses,
Even Gaethje would be happy.
and then ironically, it gives you a little bit of an excuse if he loses that he lost to the best guy coming off. Whereas, do you want him to come back and lose to Nate Diaz in his last fight? That's not good for Conor's career to lose that fight, which he very much could. He could get knocked out by Michael Chandler. If you lose to Oliveira, let's say Oliveira goes off.
Oh, but you're assuming Oliveira is going to beat Gaethje then, huh?
Exactly, right? But that's to my point. So
You
even
don't think Gaethje would want that fight? Gaethje would want that fight.
any of them. If
And I
Gaethje
think
beat
Gaethje is
you
a
up.
better matchup for Conor than Oliveira.
So that's the only reason I say, I think it makes sense with the UFC because, now I don't know if Dana thinks Conor is what he used to be
well,
anyway,
clearly they're going to make Islam fight Beneil again.
which is kind of crazy to me. You
Not
think they're
really,
bitter
because
about the whole thing?
Yeah,
10
they're
fights
bitter.
in a row?
They're bitter about it.
So, okay,
he turned it. He played wishy-washy with them. He turned it down last minute.
So to my
I know
point,
how promoting goes.
10 fights in a fucking row and you don't get a title shot, but yeah, Korean Zombie is about to get a title shot. And Korean Zombie got beat up by
I know there
Brian
is actually
Ortega.
when you put it that way, there is actually no rhyme or reason. And I know you got to go case by case in each division. I mean, you look at the flyweight division.
This is the worst case scenario.
They're about to do a quadrilogy. I don't think they've ever done that, but they're about to do a quadrilogy with Moreno.
This is going to be a worst case scenario, and I'm telling you right now, the majority of those pay-per-views are going to be people tapping in to see Khamzat. I said it, and I mean it. If you put Khamzat on his own pay-per-view against Gilbert Burns as the headliner, and then leave this card the way it is without him,
saying
I fully believe that would be a bigger
And isn't
stuff.
that strange? Holloway's the replacement.
I mean, it's smart.
He just wants to get a paycheck, I guess.
Well, why wouldn't you want to be the
Just
replacement?
have to make the weight. Yeah.
And he believes he won the last second fight. I believe he
But
won
he was
the second fight.
originally scheduled for it.
Well, I think
That's a strange set of
the third
circumstances.
thing, right? So to my point, like Brian Ortega lost to Holloway badly. He got beat up by.
I hear they're thinking of
Volk.
Brian Ortega versus Yair.
I like that.
That's a good
I like
fight.
that fight. So I listen. I like Korean Zombie, but come on, man. Like what? It's just a very confusing.
Did you hear Jan can't get his corner over because of the whole Russia thing?
I know.
So
I feel so
he's
bad
already.
for all these guys.
I think
man.
he might.
He's at Tiger,
reach
right?
out to Khabib, to Khabib's team for them to.
To AK.
Well, yeah, just because.
Well, it's so close anyway. What's the difference at this point?
Yeah, just somebody.
Well, I mean,
just a Russian-speaking corner.
Well,
is
not
all
that
he
you don't
needs.
just have any guys at Tiger Muay Thai. They all have a bunch of Russians and stuff like that. There's got to be guys who can corner him there. He's gonna stand. He's gonna try to stand with Aljamain anyway. Okay, so that's very interesting that you bring up
Yo,
the
this
Russian.
is gonna be a strange thing because if Russian fighters stop getting their visas,
You
are
see this
not allowed
last
to
card
fight,
and this card coming up. How
this
many
card
Russians
coming
there
in
are?
London, they actually said 4 of the Russian fighters, and they could have lost the main event.
Volkov's.
Potentially could have not made it to London.
Well, I'm hearing that's why they got what's his name?
And
Khamzat
UFC
out
has
of-
some of the best fucking immigration lawyers you can
I'm
imagine.
hearing that's why they got Khamzat out of Sweden so quick because he still wasn't technically a citizen. He's Chechen.
No, he's Swedish citizen.
So I heard that he wasn't actually Swedish. That's why he had a bunch of issues traveling on the national team.
Really?
So I saw a whole thing about it. A lot of times
He represented Sweden in some national sports.
But then he wasn't
I mean, you
allowed to
gotta be-
leave to go to certain tournaments and stuff. That's the word on the street is why he went to MMA. Is that he would win these
I
tournaments.
guess I don't know what Swedish refugee statuses is.
Yeah, so he was a
things like that.
refugee, wasn't an actual citizen, and so there was issues with him getting out. And they got him to the States, so he's going to be in Vegas this whole time because they didn't want to play.
I think that's smart for the UFC. I mean, and then they can always set up Fight Island again. I think is going to have to be a possibility, not now because of a pandemic, but because of a potential world war.
Imagine.
And I don't think the Middle East will.
The Arabs are loving this right now. Pandemic, come here. World war, come here. Like this is the best
They're
case
going to
scenario.
continue. They're not going to sanction Russians. So I mean,
How
it doesn't,
crazy
and it
is
doesn't
that?
make sense to sanction ordinary people.
How
so.
wild would it be if they stopped letting? Well, bro, they're talking about they're not letting people who have like Shopify accounts in Russia do business anymore and Square.
What do you mean? They took away McDonald's and Starbucks, and they took
Which
away.
is good.
Which is
for
good.
you.
They took away their
Pornhub,
MasterCards
good.
and
Facebook,
Visa.
good. Like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to do that to them, you know, what do you look at as a like?
What do you
What
mean?
do
They're
you
already
look at
working.
fighters as?
What are fighters to hockey players who make millions more, and they're willing to
I
like
know
not let these hockey
the
players
soccer
into the
players.
NHL?
Bro, and listen, this is a dark thing. You know, I know a lot about this history because I'm obsessed with this shit. But a lot of these guys are coming from those much more, I don't want to say questionable, but the place that you probably do have to worry about Russians a little more, which is Dagestan, Russia, and Chechnya. Like, they come from the specific areas where even Russians are terrified of them. It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, the relationship between Chechnya, you know, the republic where a lot of the Islamic stuff happened, and then actual Russians isn't good.
Yeah.
So for Western people,
It might be a republic in Russia, but you can look at it as a colony at the same time.
for Westerners to not want them over here, like if you're willing to do this, like you said, the soccer players, hockey players, and then these are, you know, a lot of these guys are coming from countries where they're refugeed out of there to
Listen,
begin with.
I'm a war child. I'm a refugee. Anytime war happens, it's the ordinary people that suffer.
That suffer the most.
That are innocent in this, that have no part, no play. And you know that's just the nature of war. And
Well, I've
I
been
think
seeing all
everything
these
should-
joking memes, like from like, you know, a joke like, you know, it pretending to be Aljamain and all these other, like, I think it's time to ban the Russians, right? And it's a joke because they're taking fucking over. I mean, we're at the peak of the Russian takeover. Imagine if all of a sudden they can't fight in the UFC. Like, imagine, because bro, this is getting to
I
a
don't
point
think
where
Dana would stand for that. You know,
Dana wouldn't want to, but bro, they can start getting weird with the UFC overall. Like, if this keeps escalating, it can get weird doing business.
already getting escalating. You know,
I mean, bro, the shop, like, you think a lot of these businesses want to stop doing business with Russian people?
they're
You
not
think
going to. China's not going to.
That's
And
China. That's a whole nother podcast if we want to get into that. But if you're the West and the United States, you're already proving you're willing to lose some of your own money to make a point.
Yeah, but
right?
is Europe willing to? Europe's not willing to trade with like.
Well, they are actually, like London. Look, all these places. Remember, it's NATO.
Yeah, but Germany needs its gas. Like
the Germany thing's a little more questionable. But once again, if we're talking about MMA, what's the big pull? You're gonna start doing shows in Germany, and like I said, if this keeps escalating to the point it is. We can end up seeing this Russian train stopping because, bro, a lot of these guys want to be in Dagestan to train for a reason. There's a reason they want to be.
They don't want to
in the
move
Caucasus.
to the states, and even
I think
Khabib,
some of them do.
Yeah, but of course they want to come to the states, work in the states, make money, maybe stuff like that. But I mean, like the training, even Khabib would go back and forth.
Well, ask yourself this: will Russia let them? A bunch of them will have to almost become refugees because it will get to the point where Russia will start drawing that line as well. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, all you guys just go to ONE FC. Where everything's about Asia now and Eastern Europe. Well, we have our own promotions. Eagle FC is a thing.
ACA is what the biggest show.
Bro, I
Akbat,
mean,
right?
this is about separating these things to begin with, and Russia's made that clear. So you have to ask yourself. Remember, people forget. And this is why I feel bad for a lot of Russian people because, bro, already if you were Russian, you had issues getting out of Russia. You already had to get permission. You had to visas. Like this was already an issue if you were a Russian before. Ukrainian, you could travel free.
But what are we now gonna hate on Russian fighters? The way people are hating on Russian vodka and fucking Russian caviar and everything Russian.
I mean, brother,
and
look at the word you just said. If we're willing to hate on Russian vodka, the term Russian fighter to the normal person is already a scary term already. We don't want them here anyway. In your mind, if you're already brainwashed by what's going on, the idea of a bunch of these actual
think about how many Russians we already have here that are transplanted in Canada that are some of our best fighters, are competed at the highest levels in boxing, like the Chechen Wolf, Arthur, Key-Tag, and all these guys that have competed at the highest level in wrestling.
Our coach Neil, and shout out to Neil, yours beat the streets. I was trying to connect him with Vlad, another one of our guys who just had a nasty knockout. Shout out to
Kazbekov. I mean,
all right. We were trying to make a thing happen where Sidikov, the Olympic world champion, beat Burroughs. We were trying to figure out a way to get him over here for a seminar. Already before all this was a big thing, visa was a thing, right?
Yeah, there's no chance him coming now.
He's an Olympic gold medalist.
And why wouldn't I want to work with a legend like?
He's an Olympic gold medalist, and that was already the first conversation about getting him a visa. So now, you know what I mean? So it could easily become a thing where Russia starts. I heard something, I don't know if it's true or propaganda, who knows anymore, about how they've officially sanctioned pirating movies to offset the bans. So Russia basically like, we're not going to punish you anymore to bootleg their movies. So it's not hard to believe Russia will say, nah, either you're with us or against us. And bro, if you look at Russia's history, unless you have zero family, you don't want to be a person who escapes against their, wishes, right? So this is going to be a very interesting thing. Like, bro, last week I know 3 guys on that card.
How many UFC champions are Russian right now? Just Peter Yan?
Just Perion, but who believes that's going to be the end of it?
When you think about it, there's literally a top 5 to top 10 contender in every division.
I mean, I think Usman Nurmagomedov could be a champ, but he would just be replacing.
There's no Russian really at heavyweight that could be that right now.
Volkov, but I think Osman's
Volkov. There it is. Volkov.
I think Osman was going to beat him this week. How could I forget?
So there we go. We got Volkov. In the light heavyweight, you got that crazy. Is he Dagestani or Chechen?
He's Dagestani.
Magomed Ankalaev.
I think he has championship potential for sure.
Material.
I think he can beat Glover today.
At middleweight, who do you have at middleweight? Kamza could easily go up to middleweight. And who else do you have?
70.
Right? And 70.
And we know there's somebody in the funnel that we just don't know about yet.
55, there's obviously Islam. They're already talking about him.
45, bro, you just know there's somebody even if we don't know him yet.
45 was Zabit. If he ever came back, they would probably put him right back in the top 10.
He beat Islam as an amateur.
Oh,
so,
wow.
bro, literally 35, 45,
did you see,
55, 70,
look at 35,
85.
Khabib's cousin.
Usman.
Umar.
That's why I said.
Not Usman, Umar.
Umar, you're right.
Is it Umar or Usman? No, it's Umar.
I think you're right.
Umar Nurmagomedov. He just beat Brian Keller, right?
And shout out to my boy Tim Elliott from Kansas City because he derailed another Dagestani who they were really big on.
Yeah, Tagir. That's also Khabib's, I think, second cousin. Ulambek.
So, bro, let's go through it. A 35 is already the Russian champ.
No, hang on. Askarov is closer to the title shot.
At 25?
At 25.
All right. So, let's count him, but 35, they already have the champ. 45, Zabit could easily be champ. I fully believe Zabit has championship potential. Islam's my favorite to be champ. Kamza's my favorite to be champ.
In 2 divisions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm taking bro. After watching the Robert Whittaker fight as well, I would probably put my money on Kamza. Probably a little.
And then to hear a guy like Darren Till hype Kamza
talk
up
about
that much,
just mauling him.
You're just like, whoa, Darren Till, you're like one of the best.
Bro, forget Darren Till. Fucking
Gustafsson.
Gustafsson fought John Jones in a 5-round war.
My Bosnian homie Imran Smajic, he says,
bro, he took down John Jones. He did very well against DC, and he talks about Khamzat is just as dominant and feels just as strong. That's crazy to coming from a guy who now is at heavyweight. He's talking about he takes him off the wall as a heavyweight doing this to him.
I'd like to see a wrestling match between DC and Khamzat. I mean, DC would still win. That'd be cool to watch. Because Khamzat's like taller, but DC's just.
I mean, brother, to your point, 35, 45 is a beat, 55 Islam, 70 Khamzat, 85 possibly Khamzat, 205 this other guy.
You could literally Volkov could become champion too.
He could. I think it's.
You think he's gonna lose?
I think Esmeralda beats him. I think this kid is for real. I think he's that level. I think the boxing, remember he was a professional level boxer.
Tyson Fury just piped him up,
and
he's subbing guys.
He's actually a jiu-jitsu black belt. People forget that he did boxing to supplement his MMA. I think he's that guy. I really believe that. I believe he is that guy right now.
You hear him in interviews. He sometimes doesn't even feel too confident in himself. I feel
he has humility. So perfect example. Obviously the injury was a big part of it, but
he got injured.
I'm talking about Ngannou.
Oh, Ngannou.
I don't know if Ngannou beats Aspinall in that exact state, in that exact position, having to try to grapple him. I think that'd be the worst thing to do. Just happen to go against another guy who's just like you.
Who's behind you, in terms of
I think Aspinall, I'm that big on Aspinall. I really am. I really am that big on him.
Well, people were big on Chris Dawkins too, and he got slept by Derek Lewis. I think he's fighting against.
So Chris Dawkins is a little different.
Curtis Blades, he's fighting against Curtis Blades.
So this is why I look at it. There's two type of guys who become champion. A lot of times it's just that John Jones genetic freak, which obviously is skill in the mind and the warrior thing, and then there's those guys who are very disciplined thing. And I look at Aspinall as both. I think he's a freakish athlete, and he seems obsessed. You
just reminded me of something. I know for sure this year we're gonna see Stipe Miocic versus John Jones for the interim title.
I would love that.
And they have to make that. That makes the most sense.
Well, now, and they have to pay John, which is sad because now it's like you should just pay Ngannou and John, and you would have had the biggest fucking heavyweight fight of all time. It's sad what they're doing with these pays.
Sometimes they do shoot themselves in the foot, but I feel like they try to do everything to not pay out, and then in the end they sometimes end up paying more. You
know what's screwing them though is because of not only now Jake Paul, but when you have Tyson Fury saying I'll fight a guy like Ngannou, bro. You have Canelo when Usman got brought up. There's no longer boxers pretending they don't know our names, right?
Yeah.
There's no longer the Mayweather.
Canelo just said easy money.
But he acknowledged that this guy's a person, that he knows MMA. You are now in a situation where boxing is now said, we'll play that game with these guys in between.
I think for boxing, that's the smartest thing to do. Because aside from the big fights in boxing, if they can get a UFC champion to give it a try against a boxing champion.
He doesn't have to be a champ. Woodley was on a 4-fight loss streak. He made more money in that one fight than all the UFC champions did combined in their last fights.
To do those boxing spectacles. I don't know why Dana White pussied out after Conor with the whole Zuffa boxing thing.
Well, because look what happened to Conor. I think
you should expect that to happen.
This is what I was saying. I think Conor and the UFC's brand with Conor would have been better off him not doing the Mayweather fight. And I say this because people are like, he became an international star, blah, blah. But if you look at the decline, the regression since, I don't know how good it was.
You just gave a poor Irish kid like
$100 million. I think everyone would rather see Conor. What do you think was gonna
happen? You think he was gonna not do a bunch of cocaine and get drunk at bars and hit old people?
He was already making enough money. He was big enough. I don't think beating Eddie would have been satisfied his appetite enough. I think he would have stayed in the gym, and I think we would have saw much more impressive fights from him.
Yeah, because when you think about the Eddie Alvarez fight,
and I think it scares them.
That was a scary.
I think it scares them. But like I said, they're shooting themselves in the foot, man. I look at even the 25 division. I'm sorry, man. You kind of shot yourself in the foot with the Henry thing there too. I think it would have been good to pay Henry and let him compete with these guys. 35. Who wouldn't want to see him versus Jan?
Podcast with the Schmo and Mike Tyson, and he's more in the MMA media.
So let me give you an example. If you paid Henry, you already know you have a bigger fight at 145. If you pay
35, he's a guy who can fight at 45 and 35.
And say you'll go to Russia and fight old boy, which would have been now that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. God. The UFC Russia thing is never gonna happen.
Oh, this is bad.
They did pull off shows, didn't they?
Bro, this is gonna be
the UFC's been in Moscow, I believe, right? They have, right? They have.
I don't know, bro.
I think they have.
Maybe. But for instance, Dana White was just there on the Logan Paul thing, and he's more open to this whole Jake Paul thing.
Fighting, yeah.
But yeah, when they kind of brought the Russia thing, you could tell he didn't really want to go there. I don't want to really. I don't have an answer yet, and two, let me not say because bro, they're gonna put pressure on companies, businesses. Dana White's
Well,
already
they
not.
did before. Remember when they had the
Well, look at
the
the COVID
governor
thing.
pull the COVID thing on the
I mean,
UFC
bro,
and had
even
them cancel
Ariel
the Florida show.
Helwani was fucking cucking out, implying that Dana was
Man.
being dangerous. Now, you're a fanboy the minute it worked out, and now you pretend, but like, I mean, just like basketball, we're seeing now everybody is laughing at the Kyrie thing because he's paying to go watch his home team play because now you don't need a vaccination to go to the game, but you need a vaccination to play in the arena. So he actually paid just to go watch his team play, but he can go play in other people's arenas. So it's a whole confusing thing, but now you're watching all these NBA players now backtrack. So I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on the UFC, man. I think it's going to get weird, especially
The UFC must be so happy that all the mandates ended because they never give a fuck about them. And now all these fighters can get to the States, no issues, no problems.
Well, now you're arguing to see your biggest stars arguably are going to have issues. Like, what happens with Khamzat? I think their thing is going to be to get him some type of citizenship permanency immediately because he's already out of Russia.
But he trains at All Stars.
Yeah, but the issue is his descent. They actually count that. Like, bro, they're pulling people's visas like it's nothing. Like, students are terrified. I know.
What are students studying here at fucking
Oh, my
University
God.
of
You must be terrified. You must be terrified if you're a Russian student living in Toronto, New York, somewhere dealing with this. So
I'm going to go to a Russian banya tonight just to support.
Damn, good idea, man. I thought it was Ukrainian.
I'm going to go to both. I'm going to do.
See, man, that's what it's about, bro.
Yeah.
You got to support both.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, let's get, before we wrap up, what's your prediction for the 273? Volk versus Korean Zombie.
Volk. By Maulage.
Peter Yan versus Aljamain.
Peter Yan.
Obviously. And then this is the big one. Khamzat versus Burns.
Let's go on Khamzat. Let's bet on it.
I'm going Khamzat.
Let's bet on the hype train.
Yeah, man.
Gilbert's already being accepting that he's gonna get taken down. That's the things he's saying. I'll use my jiu-jitsu. It's like
he's smart. That's how you should look at it. He should accept that and understand.
But I don't know if that works, man. I think Khamzat could maul him. So let's see.
Listen,
this is the highest level guy he's ever fought.
We're not political at all, but we love Russian fighters. So I'm hoping, for my own selfish reasons, that this is able to be, and then just overall in the world, we just got out of a pandemic, bro. World War III. Can y'all wait a year?
Yeah, bro.
Can we give us a year to enjoy life before y'all pop off World War III? I those are my three picks. Well, I'm going Volk, Peter Yan, and Khamzat. And I think Khamzat will be champion by this time next year at one of the two weight classes, and. Yeah, man, hopefully everything pans out for these guys. Islam, I think, should be champion soon, and so I don't want to see anything weird happen with these.
Yeah, I think Islam is already pretty much the uncrowned champion. I think he beats probably everybody ahead
Oliver
of him.
is an interesting fight, though.
But, Oliver's but they're going to make him fight Benil. I'm excited to see that fight.
I think he beats Benil, though. I think he does it impressively,
we'll see.
All right. Well, like I said, guys, a lot of big fights coming. We got some big news coming up soon that we're not going to disclose just yet involving Thick Boy and a lot of things for this year. Like I said, as long as World War III doesn't pop off or aliens show up or something, this should be our biggest year to date. So
the crew necks are out.
Crew necks, yes, we're gonna be rocking them next week. Also, we got the reflective black. So just be on the lookout for all the stuff we're doing. We'll be back next week. I'm Tyson the Beast.
I'm your Balkan boy.
And we're Thick Boy Fight Club.